Hello, everyone, and welcome to Meticulous Talks for May the 12th. I am, as always, Cursedchords.
And I'm Hithroc.
And yeah, we're here for part 2 of our spring deck review. By this point, both Winnie City and BabsCon were some time ago, but we still have to talk about the core decks.
Mm-hmm.
And again, as I said, this is now 3 weeks ago that you did the commentary, but you still are the guy. Well, and I guess I was there. I remember core being a relatively, well, yeah, there was a lot of variety.
Yeah, but we didn't get to see core much at BabsCon because it was cut short. I think we had, was it 3 rounds?
Oh, that's a good point. I remember that. Yes, core was supposed to go more longer than it did. I don't remember the exact circumstances on why. Oh, right, there was a reservation that couldn't be moved. That's right. Yeah, there were some schedule problems, unfortunately. So we were planning on 4 rounds or something, and we only got 3, which was a shame, or something like that.
But at least it was a secondary event and not the primary one.
Yeah. Coming up next week at Everfree, core is going to have the main showcase, and well, yeah, that's when we'll see the real stuff happen. And yeah, Bugle, we could. Beyond Block is a thing. There was actually, wait, no. Winnie City had an Odyssey Block tournament. Everfree is going to have Beyond Block?
Yeah.
That, I mean, maybe we'll touch on it later when we get to what we're expecting to see at that convention. Personally,
I have no idea.
Yeah, I haven't spared much thought for it at all. And I'm just kind of going to, we'll see what we'll see when we see it on stream, presuming that we see that on stream. That is a fair prediction, probably. Okay, so anyway, to get on to things, we're going to start what is now 4 weeks ago, the Winnie City Core Constructed Tournament. There were 8 entrants to that one, but we are just going to cover the ones that had a winning record, which is the top 3. 2 decks that went 3-1, and 1 that was 4-0. We shall get right into it. That's something else. There was something else you wanted to say, Hithroc?
Nope.
Okay. So our first deck then is Fluttershy Nurturing Nature Blue, as played by, let me see here, Jeffrey W. So this is a Pegasus list. As you can see, we've got the appropriate business attire, the chillax, even cheering section as well. So yeah, kind of going all in on the Pegasus synergy, except for Brian and Yona, I suppose. Actually, and Philomena. That's correct.
And they shift like there's a lot of non-Pegasus.
Oh, okay, yeah.
There's a lot of Pegasus here too.
That's true. Interesting choice actually to go for Philomena as opposed to Uneven Ground.
Yeah, maybe that's because it's like a too powerful one.
Good point.
And it is a critter, but I don't think there's like anything here that synergizes with critters.
Problem deck. Yeah, you're right. Actually, I noticed the single conductor's baton as well. That That does hit everything in the deck except Thunderlane. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is pretty good, honestly. That combine that with a couple of Chillaxes, and a lot of these friends are actually going to be probably significantly higher power than you'd normally expect. So I can certainly understand why this deck should have a good time confronting problems.
Yep. And having a couple of Chillaxes at home help boost Fluttershy as well.
Mm-hmm.
Fluttershy can get pretty insane. And Field Erasers too, like Field Erasers can give power to Fluttershy, and Fluttershy can confront more problems.
That's very true, actually. Yeah, with Fluttershy main, oftentimes you can get a lot of value out of just boosting her up to, well, yeah, 6, 7. We've got a stick in here. Honestly, given what you said, she might get to 9 or 10 without much real concerns.
Mm-hmm.
And then, yeah. Now, granted, this problem deck can't entirely be confronted by just Fluttershy herself. Those join the herds, notably. You're necessarily going to need one other character, at least.
You mean Save the Day?
Oh, yeah. That's right, save the day. I was thinking of joining the herd and saying, oh, yeah, with that you can confront surprise takeoff, and I guess my brain just kind of, yeah.
But Save the Day was a really good problem. Like, I can see why would you use it even if you can't really confront it with one character.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's not like you're going to be missing out on the blue, as we said. Either a Pony Pirate or a Loyal Pony or Chillax or Philly Racers could do it. Like they only need +1, which means you need either your Conductor's Baton in play or one of your other things that gives all your characters +1 power. And obviously, Thunderlane just does it too. So.
Mm-hmm. And as you said, join the herd if you really need it.
Mm-hmm. Now, for that matter, let me just stop and think here. We're opening turning Cutie Mark. How many pathways do we have to confront that on turn 2? Like, obviously you open considering Cutie Mark, you open Lacking Lesson Plans against Tempest. If it's concerning Cutie Mark, you confront it turn 2 basically always. It's Lacking Lesson Plans. How many ways do we have to do it?
Do you confront it always? I think the only way to confront it turn 2 is Kind Pony or Join the Herd. I don't really see anything else.
Sorry, which one? Cutie Mark or Lesson Plans?
Concerning Cutie Mark. Oh, I guess you can also play Loyal Pony. So it's either of the 2 entry or Join the Herd.
Yeah, or Stick.
Oh yeah, Stick works too.
Granted, you only have one of them, but yeah, it works. Okay, so maybe not always, but yeah. Yeah, it's possible the deck's actually being a little bit greedy with regards to getting Fluttershy flipped over.
Mm-hmm. I would probably put more ways to confront Lacking Lesson Plans because I believe it's only the Stick right now. There's no other way to confront on the second turn.
Yeah, that is true. Good old Aloe. Goes in everything.
Or Flim and Flam.
Mm-hmm. Now, granted, I think this tournament, look at the full list. I don't think there actually even was a single Tempest list there, which might explain why this wasn't more of a problem.
Yeah, I suppose so.
So,
I also see like
Sorry,
2 Spooky Ruins and Middlebrook Mask. So I guess they expected to see a farm, and we have a farm upcoming.
Yeah, so maybe it was just a meta call on their part, which is very fair. Well, speaking of, shall we get to that to the farm list?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Excuse me. You'll have to, per usual, cover for me while I'm copying and pasting URLs here.
So it was Driver List, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
It was a loyal, not loyal, ambassador of loyalty form.
Yeah, we have it now.
I think he has run it somewhere before. Like I remember seeing this list from him, but I don't remember where.
Mm-hmm. Well, it would have to be one of the Midwestern things. Yeah, I don't remember exactly where as well. Perhaps store championships of some sort?
Oh yeah, that sounds about right. So I think the main thing about this list is that it runs only one friend, which is a cat jack. So you really want to get Pony of Shadows defeated either by you or by your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
Probably by you.
Oh,
And
always
then wipe their
preferable
board.
by you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, that is the good trick. It's guaranteed cat eject whenever Pony Shadows gets defeated. Quite nice.
Mm-hmm.
Well, provided there's still one of them in your deck. But yeah.
Yeah. But if she's not, you can get her back with School Shut.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually not sure about free School Shutdowns. Like, isn't that too much of a board wipe? Like, you have 6 cards here that wipe the board, and all of them are expensive. Like, you might get them all into your hand.
Yeah, it's possible. It's potentially a little excessive, yeah. Given that you're playing a farm deck as well, and so generally it, like farm historically at least doesn't care that much about the opponent's stuff. Um, like there's some big targeted removal things that you need to be able to do to handle. Well, this is core, so what are the big cards in core? I'm actually drawing a bit of a blank. I think of Earth of Anguisher right away, but that's Harmony. Core, what are like the anti-farm cards around?
There's Ultimate Organizers, which can be very annoying.
Mm-hmm.
There are some cards here and there, like Spikes and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and you do need, well, make sure you're packing resource removal for those cardboard boxes. Those are still around. But
Oh, yeah. And Middlebrows masks.
mm-hmm. Or it's worth pointing out, actually, how many resources do we have in this deck? Or resource removals? 3 limit futures, is it?
Yeah, free and School Shutdowns can count.
School Shutdown does count, that's correct. Perhaps somewhat extreme move response. But gotta do what you gotta do.
Yeah, but by the time you get to play School Shutdown, like your opponent will have like a couple of resources out. Like
Yeah.
they might have a stick, or they might have like even removing a motivational speech along with a cardboard box or something is pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And for what it's worth, actually, as long as you can get the face-off started, like, so a cardboard box says your main can't contribute power or can't participate in face-offs.
I think I don't remember.
Yeah, because
I'll check.
yeah, as long as you can start the face-off, if you have a Flash Magnus' shield out, that power is independent. And,
Even if it can't be involved, you would be able to start the face off.
oh, okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah, but the card says that it doesn't contribute the power. So
yeah, and with this deck's flip average, even just a shield plus a flip is probably a pretty good call on defeating a troublemaker.
Mm-hmm. And there's Napcakes.
That too. The only way it's speech, right? Like basically speech and herd are the only ways to get to purple in this deck, right?
Yeah, but
Yeah.
it doesn't run too much purple. Like all of the purple cards, you usually like don't want to play them as you draw them. So
Mhm.
I don't think that's like 6 should be enough, I think.
Yeah, pretty fair. Besides that, you're just kind of doing the usual thing of either drawing for more villains or playing them or farming them. Rinse and repeat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Sorry.
looking at the problem deck, it's all of the high confront.
I confront and a lot of great tech uh, against lots of stuff. Family Feud, of course, we know is well, yeah, it's just kind of great against everything, especially when you know the meta and blackmail halfway. Yeah, all fine problems.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, either the ones that are difficult to confront because you're missing out on like all of these are theoretically possible to confront, right?
In this deck, I mean, yeah, you can play hard on a Kata Jack,
Yeah,
and I guess that works.
yeah,
I don't think
yeah.
like
No,
that's what
yeah.
he's trying to do.
Even the ones that are hard give you a pretty obvious and important benefit, so it's not a
Yeah.
problem.
I mean, with only 3 friends in a deck and so many troublemakers, I think like, doesn't usually confront any problems during the.
Actually, that's a pretty good point. Given you're playing Rainbow Dash, you just yeah, good point. Well, anyway, well, I don't know if is this the only farm deck that we're going to be covering today. I believe it is. Yeah, there was nothing at Badge, so hopefully we'll see some more of this soon enough. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe at Everfree.
I mean, Trada's not going to be there. Pretty sure. But
He might not be the only one who plays a loyalty farm.
that's true. I sure hope someone else does. Good deck. Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
top of. Oh, right. This is the thorax list. Okay. This
Yeah.
is this one's really cool. Yes, thorax orange. Yellow orange being a color combination that we've all kind of, well, ever since Sequestria, really, people saw treading water and like, oh, that card's actually really good. And I'm sure a lot of people have looked at their collections from time to time and been like, yeah, there's actually a lot of support for this card. So many cards with Tyrless printed power that can have much more power than that in the game. And yeah, you don't even have to run day shift because your friends just don't go home.
Yeah. Except for Ember, but she's the only one.
Mm-hmm. And of course, Thorax also being the main that cares about printed power, or what I say, is it power listen to or printed power listen to? I always forget.
It's printed power 2
Print.
or less.
Printed power, indeed. So yeah, just works out double.
Mm-hmm. And that's why, like, you can see in this deck some power counter synergies, like Rockhoof, Shovel, Ember, Delivery Crew, and Apple Bloom. And the thing is that Torx only cares about printed power, so you can have like Rockhoof at 8 power,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll still be fine.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even the Fluttershy conflict resolver I also quite like. Given the situation that, as you say, power counters flying everywhere, thorax being huge, chances are before the flips you're going to be winning. So why not take the risk that there's going to be some wacky chaos thing go off and just not flip at all?
Mm-hmm. I also like controlled citizens there, even though they're kind of counterintuitive in the fact that they can confront from home is not very relevant because of trading water.
Mhm.
But it's great because they're little Fluttershies, basically, and with Rockroof shovels, you can put power counters on them and get them like to 5 power and confront from home.
Absolutely. Yeah, a little unfortunate actually that there's only the one shovel in this deck.
Yeah.
Be nice to have two, or well, it's a unique card, so two. Well, it's unique, but it's also like super good. Maybe three is still good enough.
Yeah. But there's also Delivery Crew, so I guess that makes up for that.
Mhm. From the chat, Bugle suggests that this Ember should be a mod. I presume he means the mod that she gets to 4 and then nothing can be dismissed or frightened. Whichever mod that is, I forget. It's from Odysseys. Yeah, not Amuse, that's the one.
Not Amused, yeah.
Which would probably be a fine play. Yeah, as pointed out, it is not at all hard in this deck to get it up to 4 power. Okay, right, and then nothing can be frightened. She basically does the same thing as Ember, except you only have to put the counters on her rather than on everybody.
But she doesn't have Diligent.
True.
But there's only one of her here anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, honestly, this list maybe, given Singleton Ember, Singleton Philomena, Singleton Fluttershy, I'm not sure if those are actually tuned singletons or just budgets.
I think it's just collections restrictions.
Yeah. So likely there's a final form of this out there somewhere.
Yeah.
But either way, good stuff.
Yeah. I'm kind of curious about Sclerite. Seems like an
Okay.
interesting choice, I would say. Like, you don't want 2 colors from Sclerite, probably.
All right. Let me see
I
here.
guess I can enter yellow with Thorax and naming yellow and Sclerite if Thorax is unflipped. But that's like the only thing that comes to.
Well, just as we did for Fluttershy here, what are our flip pathways? You got Fluttershy, you got Thorax.
You have Thorax, you have Angel.
Angel, sorry, I said eight.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There is no Fluttershy. Whatever. Okay. Yeah. And then besides that, don't.
Yeah, I guess Sclerite is fine.
Yeah.
Because you can play Brian and Citizens with it.
Mm-hmm. But yeah.
And playing Water.
Yeah. There's kind of the same thing that we mentioned with the number 3 deck. If you do run into Tempest and you run your Lacking Lesson plans, yeah, you've got a bit of a hill to climb just to confront it.
Yeah.
Which, as we said, there was no Tempest. Fair enough. Presumably, if there was, people would have given her more credit.
Yeah. Like, this list could very well run Flim and Flam.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Flim Flam is a 0 power friend, which will be useful after after they lose all their counters.
Mm-hmm.
And it lets you confront Lacking Lesson plans on turn 2.
Kind of frustrating that if you try to shovel them, they just give away the counters.
Yeah. So don't shovel them.
Absolutely. Yeah.
They also stay at problems with trading waters, which is kind of fun. Like, they're not doing anything, but they're staying.
Mm-hmm. Which, I mean, it's useful for problems like mob mentality, say, for example.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. Well,
Yeah, that's
shall
winning, I
we
suppose.
move on? Yeah, that's Winnie City. And then, as we mentioned last stream, DevsCon was 1 week later. Yeah, Harmony was the main event, but there was some core played as well. Unfortunately, not enough, but some.
Yeah, it's better than nothing.
And we'll be doing just the top 8. There were 10 lists total there, but in the interest of time and, well, essentially mostly just time, we're going to be doing the top 8. So sorry, Sokol and Ara. Your lists aren't going to be
It's okay.
showcased.
They just have to get into top 8 in Everfree, and then
Yeah. And for that matter, we're kind of getting tired of talking about Sokol's list, I'm sure, right? It's the same Soleno thing again.
yeah.
And I'm pretty sure someone else was actually playing Arakat's list farther up. So we're totally fine skipping over them.
Actually, Suckles' list has some differences from the Harmony list he ran, but he runs Zap there.
Oh, interesting. Well, anyway.
Instead of Royal Pony, I think. Yeah, anyway.
Number 8 was Sketchbeam with a reanimator list. And understanding that, we see, oh, yes, look at all these 3-color alicorns. Yeah, lots of big stuff.
Except Celeste. Sorry, Cursed.
I know. Even in a reanimator list, she's not good enough. One of these days. But yeah, it's not surprising. These Twilight wins games on her own. Honestly, even more so than the others. Twilight just wins games on her own. If you get her out, given that she has so many ways of protecting herself and giving everything else +2 power in a deck with
Bodyguard.
Yeah. That can often obviously be pretty great. Inclusions. Yeah, this is kind of pink, I guess? No, sorry, pink's the primary. White is the main secondary color, or yellow?
I mean, I would say it's white because you kind of need white for reanimation to work.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So you can't really do anything without.
Yeah, white for the Griffin Shopkeep and for the Bodyguard and for the Soprano. That's where you're starting the game off, probably. And then, yes, for redeeming qualities and for cleaning up, etc., etc. And notably, let me see here. Aside from the tricorns, pulling Meadowbrook out of the discard pile is great. Pulling, let's see what else. Soprano obviously is. No one's ever complained about getting that card into play.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot of card draw here. Now that I think about it, none of the usual events and stuff, but Somnambulist, Shopkeep, and Cadence are all standing to potentially draw you a lot of cards.
And the main.
Oh yeah, and Silverstream. Jeez, totally forgot about that.
Yeah, but you don't. Since it's a reanimator, you don't mind drawing too much cards because discarding is fine. That's what you want to do.
Yep. That's actually a really good point. That usually reanimator decks have been orange, or at least in Harmony. Usually, up to now, they've been orange because orange was the color that lets you discard stuff pretty quickly. But yeah, pink can do the same thing, just by virtue of drawing lots and lots of cards and then discarding them later.
Mm-hmm. Also have a great card, which is not on this list, but it's great for things like that too. Is Clutchtown City. Discard the card you need and get the Rex too.
Absolutely. Obviously, very great if you've got a pile of 3-color cards in your deck, because just you can do whatever you want basically with them.
Mm-hmm.
And since they're 4 power, you have enough rec to play anything off of a single discard. Yeah, this is like this archetype was the kind of thing that like I know it's been monkeyed around with, well, since Marks in Time basically, because that's when redeeming qualities came in. More seriously since Defenders. Nowadays, it seems like it's legitimately a thing that you see around every so often. So it's good to keep around.
Yeah. Yeah, but we got a lot of friends that are very expensive but very impactful.
Yeah. If the trend of giant 3-color friends keeps continuing, then one would assume this kind of style is going to keep getting better.
Mm-hmm. Which I think it might, because we still have a lot of triplets to cover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if eventually we come down to triplets that are not 5 cost, 5 power. Find some other balance to avoid just being giant monsters that help this kind of deck out. I don't
Or
know.
maybe other card types like resources.
Yeah. Like obviously there's a bit of a this is getting a little bit into like card design, but there's a bit of a danger in if a card with 3 colors is too easy to get, then it gets a lot easier for it to work as establishing all of those colors for you for your deck, right? And that might be a little bit too powerful if you make it too cheap.
Yeah, perhaps that's why we see only high power, high cost, and the songs.
Yeah. Well, next up.
Yep.
Okay. Oh yeah, next up for me. We don't.
Oh yeah, it's you. And your Strawberry Sunrise list.
Yeah. So
I'm so glad we saw it like in full power on stream. It was great.
it was pretty awesome to play that game, honestly. For what it's worth, the rest of the con was a little bit less impressive. I think my match after that was against Cheese, and he locked me out of yellow, or wait, locked me out of basically everything for the whole game, and it was a little bit hard to take. But yeah, for anyone who missed it, Strawberry Sunrise basically works by using Strawberry to defend your troublemakers by turning them face down at inopportune moments, such as right before your opponent defeats them, or, well, right before you can uncover them again to get another benefit, etc.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I kind of mixed it in with your kind of standard yellow removal stuff, Yona, and unsatisfactory work. Pink with more present belly flop, yada yada yada, and enough resource removal to, well, do a lot. We've got I would say enough. Potentially a little bit too much, given that I threw the Meadowbrooks in there too, or Singleton Meadowbrook.
Yeah, but Midbrook is great against so many things, so it'd be weird if you didn't include her.
Absolutely. Anyway, I shouldn't dwell on this too much. I don't want to feel like I'm bragging, but you're free to make any comments you want.
I was wondering why Pink is present and not Sonata.
Yeah, so I think I looked between the two cards, and I think I said I wanted to be able to draw cards sometimes. But Sonata is also pretty good. It's a pretty valid choice, I think.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, I was really glad that you managed to pull it off because when you don't see how the deck works, you're like, oh, it's just a pink yellow list. Nothing interesting going on there.
Mm-hmm.
Until you get strawberries and rice and smooth together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for what it's worth, this list obviously was run with Changing Pretender. I think at like before the entry was a little bit weirder or something. I don't know. Anyway, I think I would probably rework this list to Silverstream if I was going to use it again, because the entry is solid. We can run it without Changing Pretender, without much. Well, probably want to put in a little bit more yellow, I guess. But yeah, I think Silverstream in general is just a better main.
Yeah, because you don't need to confront to flip her, which is the great part.
Mm-hmm, absolutely.
And you can flip her on, like, you don't even need things like Flame and Flam or liking lesson plans because you don't care.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, people always kind of look at Change Pretender and say, well, your opponent's going to flip their main over. It's fine. Oftentimes, yeah. Your opponent looks at it and is like, is there any way I can do this without flipping my main? And if they're good, they very well might not.
I mean, to battle that, you could include sudden copy of backup vocals.
Mm-hmm.
And then if it's like a silver stream against you or Selena, you have fun.
Skystar.
Oh, you never flipped your main.
Yeah.
Yeah, you never flipped your main. Well, joke's on you. I have your ability.
Yep. The Seleno dream is always out there. And yeah, I might. Backup vocals. It could be worth it.
I mean, if compared to Silverstream, it's more consistent probably to include Silverstream than go for the Dream.
Yeah, it depends. Am I playing in Coco or am I playing in a tournament? Then
yeah, that's fair.
That changes things. Anyway, like I said, I don't want to dwell on this too long.
I just want to ask: have you considered any other troublemakers except the ones you have here, like something like Cozy Glow? Or I know you wanted like on-camera effects, but there are quite a bit of good troublemakers there.
Yeah, it's a good point. That probably would come with more play and more experimentation and such. Like, obviously, Smooth's just wrecked that game, so I think it's pretty clear. And Chrysalis is pretty good at, she's there, and the opponent, doesn't even try, right? Because they just know, if I move anything there, it's going to go home next turn. And, yeah. So I actually had really good luck with her at Store Championships. The opponent, just kind of looks at her and like, well, that problem's not going to do anything for the rest of the game. And then Mimics, well, we all know Mimics. Cozy Glow, admittedly, is in pretty much the same spot. It's the exact same confront requirement and the exact same points. But it's really hard to make an argument against Mimics.
Yeah, that's fair. What about villains?
Mm-hmm. Let me see here.
Take, for instance, Trixie.
Yeah.
She does pretty much the same thing as Chrysalis, because like moving things home, and unless you have showy, and frightening things is pretty much the same. It costs 2 ET to unfrighten. And you can also repeat the ability, but Trixie also has very useful ability that disables friends ability. So
yeah, and she does have
and
that villain keyword, which is very
yeah.
very useful. That's probably a fine idea. Plus, she's well, yeah. I hadn't considered it, but it might be worth a try.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, it's interesting. Well, yeah. Thanks for the input. We'll see. Okay.
All right, next deck.
Next deck, sure. So yes, next deck would be the other pink yellow mid range, but not my pink yellow mid range. Kevin's Silverstream yellow, also containing a smooth, but a very different smooth.
It's an anti Mistmane smooth. Well, kind of, not really.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Anti school shutdown smooth.
Everyone always forgets non-friend card, non-friend card. But yeah, helps against. Well, helps against recursion. Helps against. Oh yeah, there's lots of decks. Twilight and Rarity, say for example. You really want to keep troublemakers out of your opponent's discard pile against certain decks. I know, like, lots of decks that times I played against you. It's like, if I could immediate pay 1, get rid of the troublemakers in your discard pile, it would help a lot.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Now,
me playing troublemakers? What?
Yeah. Now, Blindfold is anti-Mistmane. It's actually quite nice.
And anti-reanimator too. And getting rid of opponent's Meticulous is pretty good too, because Meticulous is very
good. Yeah.
I believe our run exactly the same list.
I'm pretty sure it is, yeah. Down to the unplanned guests and, well, everything. Yeah. And yeah, this is essentially, it's got all the pink removal stuff. Well, basically all the pink removal stuff. And you've got both Belly Flop and Food Fight in the same deck. You know. Yes. All the removal stuff. Big pile of Eccentric. The yellow is primarily aggro here, given that you've got Day Shift and Madam Rook. And Tea with Discord,
and
of course.
Resource removal.
Yes.
Yeah.
Both good ways to go. Yeah. Plenty of resource removal. Tea with Discord. Did you see this card played on stream, I assume, at some point?
Tea with Discord?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think it was never played on stream.
Shame. But yeah, it's kind of...
Maybe in Harmony, but...
Yeah. Kind of amazing. To totally clear the troublemakers off, face up and face down, and then get rid of what I assume is a blackmail, which you'd appreciate not being there. Pretty good.
Yeah, paying 3 to replace a problem and remove all of the troublemaker, especially face down one. I think it's like we have so few cards that interact with face down troublemakers.
Yeah. I'd have to go look, but I'm sure it's less than a dozen.
Yeah.
Even if you include Harmony, it's still less than a dozen.
I mean, there's some cards that let you like look at them, but no.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I have to run the search over at Royal Archive and see what you actually get.
I really like unplanned guests in this deck because a lot of decks run impactful friends and usually don't want to remove any of their friends.
Yeah,
And this deck has a lot of friends to spare. Like there's gummies, there's bodyguards with unicorns, peepsqueaks. Like you have stuff to retire.
absolutely. Yeah, that's a card that a lot of it came out in Marks, and at the time, it was just kind of not so great because most decks did have things to spare. But these days, suddenly, not such a problem after all.
Mm-hmm.
Especially, yeah, as you say, like purple and pink. Um, those decks these days are focusing on a small set of friends that they just keep on recurring over and over again. I'm looking directly at you, old money. And yeah, so they don't have that kind of fat to trim that suddenly they're forced to get rid of something. It's going to be something important.
Even in Reanimator list, unless that list has like bodyguards going as well. But if it doesn't, they will usually have like tricorns and stuff like that. And removing any of the tricorns is not great for you.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, pink yellow, great against control or most of the things really.
Yeah,
Grand control.
Yeah, it's essentially slots into exactly what you'd call mid range. You can see that against control, we're going to be dealing with their threats and then going fast enough to get underneath them. And against aggro, yeah, that's probably when we sit back and play a bunch of eccentric stuff and heavy removal and take the game at our own pace.
Mm-hmm. Next list.
Next list, sure. Next up, oh yeah, Sonnet's list. Skystar. Oh, this is the other, the list that we saw me playing against on Steam.
Mm-hmm. Couldn't go through smooths.
Oops, I did that wrong. Wait a second. Sorry. This game saw my list again for a little while. Let me...
It's okay. We'll look at it again.
All right. Oh, why is this not? Wait, hang on a second there. I know. Give me a second. Okay, copy. All right, there we go.
So pink, orange, white.
Mm-hmm.
Another good mid-range combination where except of yellow, not yellow. I guess it's except instead of yellow you use orange. And orange gives you a lot of synergies with breakdown because you have back pads and other things like backup dancers.
Backup dancers, precisely. Yep. Yeah. Even well, Fume has no dragon friends to work with, but is great with great when played when comboed with backup dancers.
Mm-hmm.
Admittedly, that's what it's at. That's like a 7 AT combo, but still pretty good. Well, actually, it's a good point. You don't have to play them together. You could have played Fume before and then play the backup dancers later, and it still works.
Yeah. And I mean, if you get more than one exhaust per turn, that also works. Like you can have bailout and bake a ban.
Mm-hmm. Precisely.
Orange also gives you things like Desert Road, which is great. Party Hard, which is also great, especially since we have backup dancers, which will give us some token
Backup dancers and
Yeah.
bodyguard. We have tokens all over the
Bodyguard,
place. Yeah.
I like to see deep in the pool here. I don't usually see that card often. But there's a lot of things to deep here, like Fume, or
Yeah.
Backup Dancers,
Dip
or
Fume.
Stitchem.
Yeah. Or a Berry Punch, as we saw as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even Miss Main. No, sorry. When you play. No.
Yeah, Miss Main doesn't work here.
Read the card, please. Let's see. Actually, yeah, because of Apple Bloom, dipping the pool, any Earth Pony in the deck gives you extra as well. Of which we have a number of them.
Especially Backup Dancers, they can just, free over your friends. I think it's free. Yeah.
Yeah.
Free over your friends don't have abilities. And that could be all ever annoying Strawberry Sunrise.
Precisely, yeah. Actually, yeah, that probably, yeah, now that I think about it. If she had got Apple Bloom that game, I probably would have been pretty screwed.
I mean...
Well, yeah, I would need to have had removal, basically, yeah. Anyway. Trying to avoid talking about myself here, to the extent possible.
I started it, so...
Yeah, so still basically, as we said, it's a little bit of a different take on mid-range. We're probably going a little bit slower when we're playing aggro, but this deck has so much value that it can kind of power through troublemakers.
And once you get Berry Punch, you can just breeze through problems.
Yeah, because we got Silverstream and Skystar. But yeah, we have enough card draw. We can just say Party Hard, for example. Berry Punch gets up to like 16 power or something, and then is just that's probably enough to confront, isn't it?
Maybe.
Maybe, yes, it's true.
I mean, I've seen problems with so much eccentric that you need more than 16, but that's all.
Yeah, would take an inside information or well, yeah.
And I mean, Berry Punch herself also draws you cards, and there's also Toe Tapper. And if you really wanted, you can use Singing Barrel and Toe Tapper. But you probably use it on Rarity.
That would be the generally preferred situation, yeah.
So yeah, not the first time we see this kind of deck in this color, and I don't think it'll be the last.
No, pink and orange. Yeah, there are a lot of different ways to do it. Generally, you're going to see Breakdown and Grubber in there somewhere, but like the rest can be. There are like 3 or 4 different ways that I've seen it done already, and yeah, works out to be pretty strong most of the time. So should be fun. You're right. This is one of those color combinations. Again, maybe not exactly this deck, but something along these lines. We can be pretty sure we're going to see it at Everfree.
Yeah. Okay, all right. Next deck.
Next deck is Richard.
Our first aggro list, I believe.
Well, yeah. First aggro list we've actually talked about.
Yeah. Sorry, Suckle. So, blue-yellow stuff.
Exactly.
Looks like a pretty straightforward blue-yellow list on Scootaloo.
Yeah.
Except maybe I would expect to see Pirate Ponies here, the rainbow deck.
If I remember correctly, this was a deck that It was an old list from perhaps say Marx or something that Richard sort of asked me to help him out with right before the tournament started. So we made some modifications to it. Which is not to say that I'm necessarily offended that you said the deck's bad, but
You don't say the deck is bad.
no. Yeah,
I just said that like it's quite straightforward. Like if I was going to build blue yellow, I think that's kind of what I would.
Indeed. Yeah, and so in that sense, indeed, there is maybe not as much to say. Like Glider is great, Thunderlane is great. Lyra is admittedly only a 2 for 2, but this deck, in this deck she has text, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's only what 7 non-friends here.
Yeah.
Like what are the odds?
I'm sure the odds are low
Right?
enough when you're on stream. Yeah, and then for the problem deck, we're not. Yeah, high bonuses. Save the day is always good. Swing the Sea Ponies works just fine because you got day shift and extra moves and yada yada yada.
Shoeshine.
Shoeshine, precisely. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to mention.
Why main 6? It's entry you don't see very often.
It's true. Main 6 is less useful. I think. So this deck does have the free moves, so it's less of a concern to get their power from them. Clearly, it's still not a great early game play because you're still gonna. They're not gonna give you the color you want. But I think later on, he said they had proven versatile enough.
Yeah, that's fair. And I guess by running no resources, it makes some dead cards in your opponent's hand.
Yeah, and
Because this deck has 0 resources.
Yeah, Bugle points out that it's not just day shift; it's Scootaloo. There's movement.
Yeah, I mean he used it like that on stream.
Mm-hmm. Good point.
Okay. Next list.
Next list is Bugle's list. So we don't even
Doesn't have a main though in the list.
Oh wait, does it? I didn't look. Oh yeah. This is gonna look a little strange.
Oh, Bugle was running an illegal deck. I think Bugle is so good at the game he doesn't need a main to win.
Alright, let me just. I should be able to fix this real quick. I'll just have to edit this list.
Yeah.
It's
Ambassador of Generosity.
Of course.
Is it Minibel again? Surprised it's not.
Oh, sorry, I'm doing this. Okay. Same list, but with a rarity.
Okay. So, as far as I'm aware, Bugle was calling this a troll list, and I think the reason for that is because he runs this main, so people would expect him to play the deck he played at Continentals. But suddenly it's not, it's an aggro list.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of being a heavy control.
Absolutely. Still, like I wouldn't even be surprised, given he plays the deck, and Ambassador Generosity will usually have a slow-ish start because you're waiting for your opponent to score first. So you hold on to your cards, you play yourself a Castle of Friendship. Your opponent's like, "Yep, this is Mini Bell, all right," and well,
And then there's Stygian, copies Castle of Friendship,
yeah,
and then suddenly Devouring Do comes out.
yeah. For what it's worth, I actually played. I played a practice match against this deck that went like 3 or 4 turns, and I actually thought it was still Bell. Yes, I saw the Castle of Friendship, and yeah, until I hyper beamed like his Castle of Friendship and saw the rest of the stuff in his hand, and I was like, oh, this is different. But yeah. I mean, for what it's worth, you got what 3rd place with it, so
yeah.
I can't say that was entirely due to the trolling effect. Surely not. Which is, yeah, I mean, blue-white aggro works just fine.
Mm-hmm. Especially when we have a little bit of control tools here as well, like Reliving History, Rutherford, Mistmane.
Yep. Mistmane to pull back your Limb Actuator saver, to pull back your Rarity Pirates.
Even pulling back the vote is pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Because against control, not being able to play events, like if your opponent can't play events, like most of the time they can't do anything. At least in like Tempest lists.
Yeah. And he says vote primarily, that's fair. Especially in like a deck like this is going to score most of its points in big, singular turns where play this and I play this and I play this and I confront that and I retire this and I score like 6 points. And so yeah, always want to presage that with a vote, just so that you can say, okay, you go get a drink. I'm gonna score 6 points.
Yeah.
And the problem list is actually a pretty fair distinction of like these are incredibly low confront requirements, and yet his bonus ratio is still pretty good. 4 out of 6 being 2s. Just the 2 zeros over there, switching high and low.
Friends Forever helps a lot because we had like all the series of low to confront problems.
Yeah. Given that he's here, I'd actually like to ask. You've got 4 different starting problems in there. Is there a calculus at all of which one goes where, or obviously we assume? Well, I mean, Rarity doesn't necessarily need to take Lacking Lesson Plans against Tempest, so yeah.
Yeah, I think Lacking Lesson Plans is here because it's great to get mid game too, because suddenly the troublemakers don't stop you anymore. And I think you start with Second Chance just for more distraction. Yeah, he says we start with Second Chance.
Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, and actually, the point that he said before, it is really worth pointing out. Yeah, that if you have the Surging IMO, you just have Rarity in your hand, and there you go. Points.
Yeah,
that works.
3 points.
Well, 3 points. That's right. Yeah.
Second Chance is pretty good to play Castle of Friendship on first turn. I actually played a game like before BampsCon against him, and I had my orange, purple, yellow deck, which basically all the AT gens you can get.
Mm-hmm.
And since I have a lot of AT gens here and there, I started with like Factory Jacks, and I play my Factory Jack, and next turn Beagle plays Castle of Friendship and says, I can do that too. So I play my second Factory Jack, but can you do this? And he plays second Castle of Friendship. And then I'm like, okay. And I play Sunburst as my third AT gen. And he responds to that with Stygian copying Castle of Friendship. So it was an 80-gen race.
Absolutely. Why should we wait till 11 points? I want 518 now.
Yeah.
But yeah. Shall we move on?
Yeah.
Okay. So, right. Next up was cheese with the Tempest White Pink list, or Tempest Pink White list, as notated. I believe this was the one that he originally built for Store Champs.
Mm-hmm. It looks very much the same. Maybe I don't think School Shutdown was there initially. Maybe it was. I don't remember the exact list, but it looks very similar to.
Famously assembled minutes before the deadline and unchanged over the course of that week. And yeah, still good.
Yeah. Basically, the iteration of BRB, but with white now because old money.
Because old money. Actually, well, Twilight and Rarity too. But basically because old
Yeah.
money.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting that like in the original BRB list we had Tempest and Grubber and Skystar for removal, and we had also a couple of other cards like Bait and Switch. But now all of these are gone because old money is enough for everything.
Yep. Old money just does it all. Well, we are missing like Discord and those, say for example, those old
Yeah.
recursion tools.
But now you
Because
have Mistmade.
yeah, good point. Portal, Mistmade, good enough. Yeah, like it's interesting because I can look at this list and see the framework of old-fashioned control that I kind of know and love. Of the photo finish and the cover to cover and the starlight. Okay, right, and then troublemakers and toolbox events, and yeah, this is my kind of deck. But it's so different that there's so few troublemakers, and yeah, it's just old money.
Mm-hmm.
It's weird, right? Because yeah, there's a tradition being carried on here, but it's changed a lot from what it was a couple of years ago.
But I believe like the toolbox control decks we used to have were mostly run by f-stops, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
F-stop is not a thing anymore, and like even Mistmane is like the greatest recursion tool we have now, and even that doesn't come close to f-stop.
It's true. Almost, perhaps there was a reason he got banned.
Maybe.
But yeah, we see. Yeah,
It's interesting to see that like both top two lists and Babs are still Tempest lists, despite the fact that like a lot of decks are built against this kind of control.
yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I remember from the Friends Forever reveals, we talked about, we had Lacking Lesson Plans and Fire Friendship were the first two cards that came out, specifically because everyone knew, man, Tempest really sucks. I'd really like to have some cards to counter it. Those cards exist, and Tempest is still pretty good.
Mm-hmm. And like we see like pink yellow. There are two pink yellow lists there. And pink yellow lists are pretty good against this kind of decks, and still. Apparently that's not enough. Or maybe they just don't do as well against other decks.
Yeah, entirely possible. Will remain to be seen. Yeah, I think that's probably a narrative. If there's any prediction to make about Everfree, that's a narrative that's going to continue. That likely these two players probably are going to there's going to be some Tempest again. There's going to be a bunch of decks that are going to try to beat it. Probably an evolution on pink yellow again, and we shall see if someone can finally get through. Speaking of which, you mentioned Grand Pause's list. Shall we just move on to it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I appreciate seeing some purple, blue, white. That's my colors. Especially like blue as a control color, because you don't see that color in control very
often. Yeah, I see echoes in here of you. The daring. Go ahead.
Unlike my list, which I have, which we played against you, which I played against you on stream, this deck tries to be more mid-rangey, which makes sense if you have time limits.
Yeah, that's pretty fair.
And yeah, in general, it's quite good. Like, there's Daybreakers here. Daring Doos are great. They're like, when I first saw Daring Do, I was like, in a mad, it's just cover to cover with a restriction. But it's actually not, because it's 2-power friend with Swift, and she's basically free to move if you confront the problem. And if she stays there, you get even more value. Like, Daring Do is great.
Seems pretty good for a mid-range style.
And there's some troublemakers, Old Money, Portals, Mistmain, all the regular.
Yeah, we have like an impressive amount of flexibility in being able to either stay with the troublemakers out. That's what doing do posters for. Great, we gain HE. Or perhaps these villains are out, these epics are out rather, and we'd like to farm them. Sure, throw a Daybreaker at them, score a bunch of points, and you're still good. This, even more than like the pink yellow mid range we're talking about before, is like, oh, this deck can play aggro, or it can play control, or it can farm a little bit, or yeah. I'll talk about flexibility.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a bigger fan of heavier control myself. But oh well.
Yeah, as you said, the time limit is something that we all need to be aware of for tournaments, and that's kind of the reason why like heavy purple unicorn control didn't work, essentially, because it's just way too slow. In a world where, in a world where we play a round and then break, and next day we come back and play the next round, etc., then maybe it'd be good, like chess style. Anyway, good.
Yeah,
I don't know if you have anything else to say.
It's good for the first place.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that this deck got to the first place, because I know I have some attachment to this color at this point, to this combination of colors.
Yeah, blue is, as you said, it's maybe the last thing anyone connects with control at this point. Possibly yellow is less. I mean, that's my job, to try to convince people yellow's a control color, but it's yours and Grand Foz's to convince people about blue. Yeah, always good to see that. Yeah, absolutely, it works.
Yeah, blue apparently has a lot of control tools, especially with purple. Mostly with purple.
Okay. So, moving on from talking about reviews and stuff, or lists and such, that is the majority of our content today. But we do have Everfree next week. I've already said a couple things about things to expect. This is, I guess, the time to go on record and say this is what we think is going to happen in the core tournament, being as precise or as vague as we want to be.
Old money is gonna happen.
There's going to be some old money. Yeah, that seems a pretty fair thing to say. There's going to be some Tempest. There's going to be some old money. I sure hope we see a little bit of Farm. Since, it did just fine at Windy City. Meta probably needs a little bit of it. Be interested to see how it fares against Tempest and such.
Yeah, the thing about Farm, like, it can even take people by surprise because, like, look at Everfree, no Farm. And if people don't expect Farm to come at Everfree, they won't just build against it, and by surprise, Farm can.
Yeah, that has been kind of the story of, like, even as I think back, several sets. That's kind of always been the story of Farm. Either everyone expects it, or no one expects it.
Yeah.
And generally, it tends to do good, no matter which. But yeah.
Isn't it quite similar to what happened when, like, the core was just introduced? Everyone was like, "Oh, Farm is not going to be a thing in core. Not enough epics," and then bam, Farm is everywhere.
Yeah, pretty much. It's been Farm's kind of perennial story that something changes and people say, okay, Farm's gone, finally. And then someone figures out how to make it work, and it wins. And then rinse and repeat. This time, I'm gonna cross my fingers and say, if someone that if there is a Farm deck there, it's not gonna win the whole thing. I hope that's the case. I'd love it to be just kind of good, but not amazing.
Top 4, maybe?
Yeah, something like that. That'd be perfect.
Yeah. Maybe we'll see Thorax Farm. That'll be fun.
Thorax Farm would be very nice. Yeah. I, again, hope that we see some kind of Thorax thing. Some kind of yellow-orange thing would be great. I'm speaking a little bit biased here just because those are the 3 decks that are at the top of TIA right now, and I'd love to see them all get some points. So, yeah. But it's also because looking at Winning City versus looking at Babs, there are 2 very different meta games being sort of shown off here. The Midwestern one was all aggro, and it was clear that people were thinking about Tempest, but there was no Tempest, and so etc. Versus the West Coast here, where there's a lot of control, there's a lot of mid range. If Everfree could be sort of those 2 coming together and let's see what happens, that would be amazing.
Yeah, I agree. It'd be nice to see more aggro decks than we saw with Everfree. I feel like we saw like 2, I think. It was 2.
Let's see. So there was Bugles.
So, Richard. Oh yeah, Bugle also counts, I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. Would Bugle like? The thing is, Bugle has a lot of like controlish stuff. It's like it's not like pure aggro.
I mean,
like
he's here blue. To tell us, or at least he was
Bugle,
here.
Would you consider that deck a mid-rangey, or do you think it's? There are 6 control cards. Well, I don't know. There's also Mist Main.
I think he's trying to say that it's aggro.
Okay, that's fair. Well, 3 aggro decks.
Yeah.
I'd like to see more aggro decks.
It's disguised as a control deck, but it's an aggro deck. But yeah, certainly we'd like to see a little bit more of that pure stuff. And for what it's worth, just in case, I'm not sure if it's actually officially been announced yet, but for what it's worth, we're going to have a front row seat. Well, not really front row. Front row seat is at the con. We're maybe sitting in like the 3rd row or something to all the stuff because we're going to be doing the commentary. Hithroc and I over on Commentary's Magic Stream.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to actually go look at the Reddit post again to figure out which exactly events we're going to be covering. But all the big ones, I'm sure. The Harmony.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Oh, I'm pretty sure that's Grandpa's. Hi, didn't know you were there. Yeah. So yeah, definitely the core tournament, the Harmony tournament, the playoffs. I personally hope the block tournament as well. We'll see when exactly that is on, as far as our schedules go, etc., etc. Block, and just to point that out, it's beyond block. Just to be clear, it's still early days, but beyond block is kind of the prototype of what the next core is going to look like. So it'll be interesting to see how that's shaping up.
Mm-hmm. Similar to what OGC block was.
Yep.
And E-score now.
Again, neither of us have really given much thought to it at the moment, but we'll see.
Yep. I mean, I would put more thoughts on it if I was participating in it, but since I don't, I'll just watch as it unfolds.
Absolutely. That same goes for everything. But yeah. Obviously, best of luck to everyone who's participating, and we hope to see some innovative stuff.
Mm-hmm.
For what it's worth, I don't know how many people he's told. Bugle did give me a preview of his stuff, of the deck that he's going to be playing. And I'm not going to say what it is, only to say that it is pretty cool.
Cool.
Yeah. So, everyone can, I don't know, enjoy that for the week until we see it on stream for the first time.
Hyping up the deck.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, yeah. So, unless you have anything else you wanted to add, Hithrock?
No.
Okay. That pretty much brings us to the end of everything we planned on talking about. So, that is kind of the point, Grandpas, is if you think it's the best deck out there, you run more of it. Yeah. As pointed out, I sure hope that whoever, we see some deck emerge from the brawl that is the top of the tier ranking for core right now. It was Thorax Orange and Cheese's deck and Farm, basically, and Fluttershy's still around too, and they're all kind of in the hunt for it right now. Okay, anyway, back to the closing. So obviously we appreciate everybody for making it out to the stream today. If you have any friends who wanted to see something like this but couldn't make it out this time, or were busy for whatever reason, we do archive all of our content over on YouTube. Meticulous Talks. I'm going to have the video uploaded in a couple of hours probably, and then post it in the Discord, etc. For those of you who want to see it. Until then, or rather, our next stream is going to be 2 weeks from now, going over the Everfree results, obviously. Probably doing both Harmony and Core. Well, I don't know. We'll see how big the results are and how much we can do. But otherwise, I've been Cursedchords.
And I've been Hithroc.
And we'll see you in a fortnight.
Bye.